Good evening and welcome to cmn104 News. Today's topic, gender in the media and communication industries.
Gender, how is it defined? In contemporary society, there have been frequent debate over the existence of several genders and the qualities that each gender might embody.
However, I'm sure all of us here could agree that there are two distinct and naturally occurring genders, female and male. Since the beginning of time, gender has been classified by the characteristics and anatomy that each gender is expected to naturally embody.
Today, millennials have established the belief that people can identify as they choose without regard for their physical anatomy that would have previously defined them. In fact, a recent study confirmed that Australian millennials believed gender shouldn't define us as it has historically, and individuals shouldn't feel obligated to pursue traditional gender roles.
To fully understand how so many of us have come to this conclusion, it is essential to take a step back in time. Surprisingly, Australian women won the right to vote early on. In fact, Australia was the first country to allow women to vote. Suffragettes abandoned their protest in 1903 when both their right to vote and their right to run for parliament was sanctioned by the government.
Because the Australian population was largely made up of migrated convict colonies, people had to work tirelessly for their money. Therefore, men relied on their wives, daughters, and other female relatives to handle some of the work, thus making the gender gap relatively small in the comparison to other countries. Because of this, Australia civilised gender equality decades before the United Kingdom and America.
Today, both genders are considered to be exploited by media companies. Women are sexualised on the front covers of magazines, whereas men wearing business suits are considered the norm by television shows and newspapers.
Women's role within society has changed radically over the past decades. This is due to the women's liberation movements in the 1970s. After World War II, women had begun to find their voice and seek a more active role in the public and academic life. This led to women working in male-dominant industries as men were fighting in the war.
However, after World War II, women were reluctant to go back to their previous lives. They had enjoyed the sense of power they had whilst working. The two world wars have proved that women could take men's roles within society and that they could work outside of the home as well as within it.
The 20th century is nothing short of revolutionary when discussing women's rights, as over a century ago, Australian women did not have the right to own property, earn money, vote, get an education, or have custody over their own children. All of that had changed as women had fought for equal rights over the years. Women have impacted the communication industries extremely, from spreading the word of equality to proving they are capable.
Within the 20th century, women have been exploited by media companies. Media has portrayed women to increase the appeal of media or product, which is detrimental to a woman's power and influence.
Television, film, and advertising have exploited women as an object, resulting in women portrayed in a sexual manner more often than men.
I love giving blowjobs to sandwiches.
I love sacrificing my dignity for a drink.
I love sleeping with guys that don't know my name.
The pursuit of happiness, just as our forefathers wanted.
I hope when my daughter grows up that she has friends just like these.
I'd sell my body for a burger. Nothing makes me hotter than watching a guy get his head blown off.
What goes great with this dish? My butt.
Obviously, my cleavage can sell anything.
However true this is, history has presented us with a form of bias when referring to the misrepresentations of gender in the media. These days, it's common knowledge that women are constantly stereotyped and characterised, though men too experience such fabrications and exaggerations when the term masculinity is put to media texts. The media is a continual source of conscious and subconscious information that causes an audience to understand its portrayals of gender, therefore leaving an imprint on the brain.
Okay. As the media communicates to its viewers through multiple platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and even advertisements, an urge to use what is being displayed aids in society's defining of masculinity and femininity, terms which came about as a result of social constructions. Masculinity in the media is consistently viewed as an appropriate representation of male behaviour and is considered the norm. From what they wear to how they act, it's traditional.
But how can this be when depictions of men have escalated throughout time? As history and media shows us, men in past centuries, particularly of high social status and power, wore clothing with lace, ruffles, balloon sleeves, and consisted of a tight pant, a comical look for today's men. Men are now seen in clothing that mirrors their seriousness and masculine behaviour. Through media products such as television and film, this notion of masculinity is so deeply embedded into the brain of men that the theory of hegemonic masculinity is at its greatest.
As a society, we define hegemonic masculinity as the current configuration of practice that legitimises men's dominant position in society and justifies the subordination of women and other marginalised ways of being a man. This theory allows us to investigate the way media cultures symbolise its conception of masculinity and seek to explain why men are in such dominant roles and positions over women. We see this in the representations of virility in TV, where advertisements portray the majority of men to acquire strong, dominant behaviours and are seen as superior and to have no weakness or reluctancy, somewhat military qualities.
Media these days discard the idea of addressing real, true depictions of male nature. Men, much like women, are sufferable to viewing a false, accepted norm and attempt to incorporate it into their daily life, thus changing themselves for what society believes it is desirable and to become a man.
Men and women have impacted the communications industry drastically.
Due to the recent developments in gender equality in contemporary society, the inequality of women has been placed on the back burner.
Men are now subject to discrimination and are often misrepresented by the media. However, both men and women share a fairly equal role in Australian media today, despite the controversy surrounding gender equality.
This has been cmn104 News.
Thank you for listening.
And have a good night.